I call this March 7th work session of the Oconee County Board of Education to order. First item of business is to approve the agenda. We need a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Burgess.
Second. Second.
Second, Mr. Ransom. All in favor? Passes 4-0. Next, we have Superintendents Report. Dr. Branch.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, board members and staff, community members for being here tonight. Just a few things to celebrate that are taking place in our outstanding school system. First is a recognition of an outstanding leader that we hate to see go, but we certainly want to congratulate Dr. Philip Brown for being named Superintendent of Jackson County Schools. Dr. Brown will be with us till May 31st, so any unsettled scores or items that you need to take care of, if you'll touch base with him on that. A couple other things, school system related, that we certainly want to celebrate. Mike Eddy and his staff at Malcolm Bridge Middle School were named a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. There's less than 250 schools nationwide that have received this honor. And this honor began in 2003, so quite a big deal there. We want to congratulate Malcolm Bridge Middle School, and I think Mr. Eddy's not with us tonight, but we want to congratulate him and his staff, and look forward to continue celebrating that great achievement. Many of you were able to attend the opening reception for Youth Art Month at OCS that happened Friday. If you've not had a chance to go over and see all the outstanding artwork from students throughout our community, both private and public schools. All 11 of our schools have displays, and there's some very, very talented young people in our community, and it's well worth your time to walk over to OCAP. I believe that's going to be available most of the month, so please consider stopping by and sharing with those that you know to celebrate our young people. And what a great thing that is to be able to have students as young as kindergartners being able to say that their art was actually in an exhibit. That's quite a big deal. So we appreciate that partnership. We also had a first last week. We were able to host our first ever literacy expo, and that was at the Civic Center. That's for 4th and 5th graders that are part of a group called Page Turners, and it's a school club. They attended with their media specialists. They read books, have conversations. They enjoyed some artists and authors rather that came in and gave some talks and really shared their literary projects. And so first for our school system, I want to thank Ms. Adams and all the teaching and learning staff that have worked on that, as well as our principals, to create yet another opportunity for our students. Now, speaking of literary, I want to congratulate Oconee County High School. They won the Region Literary Championship this weekend, so that's another region championship for our school system and for Oconee County High School. Also want to congratulate senior Haruki Takeuchi for making a 1600 on the SAT. So we now have a student this year who's made a perfect 1600 on the SAT, and a student who's also made a perfect score on the ACT this year. I don't know that I recall that happening in the same year in our school system in my tenure here, and certainly a great thing. And Haruki is also on our student advisory panel for superintendency, and just a great young man. So it's a pleasure to know Haruki and get an opportunity to celebrate his success there. Hot off the presses as well today, North Oconee team Ultraviolet competed in the Georgia Tech Inventure Prize and won first place overall for nearly 200 inventions. They will move forward to compete in a national competition in June, and their invention is a silicone pad that sanitizes laptop keyboards using UVC light. I'm sure Mr. Burgess was working on that before he came over.
They got right in front of me.
Got right in front of me. And finally, we want to celebrate our Director of Communication, Anissa Sullivan Jimenez, for receiving 6 awards last week, the Georgia School Public Relations Association Conference. We received as a school system 5 gold awards for various communication projects, as well as the Best in Georgia award for the annual report that we put out this year. So congratulations, Nisa, on great work. That's going to conclude Superintendent's Report unless there are questions.
Thank you. Next are presentations and discussions. First is Teaching and Learning Report. We have Dr. Susan Stansel.
Good evening. The March 2022 Teaching and Learning Report contains 4 items of information and 3 action items. The first item of information is an update on our FY22 Special Education Disproportionality Determination. IDEA requires the Georgia Department of Education to make determinations annually in the areas of significant disproportionality. This includes the identification, placement, and discipline of students with disabilities. I am pleased to report that OCS meets all requirements for the FY22 determination. I also want to commend Suzanne Korngold for her hard work in this area. The second item of information is another update from our special education department. Vicki Hill, our parent mentor, has created a parent tool shed for families who are currently receiving special education services. This fabulous resource can be accessed through our district website and is linked here. A huge thank you to Vicki for creating this resource and for our parents of students with special needs. The third item of information is kindergarten registration. Last week, March 1st through the 4th, parents were able to register their rising kindergarten students online. On March 23rd and 24th, our new kindergarten students will get to come to their new schools to be screened and get to tour the school they will be attending next school year. The fourth item of information is an update on the rollout of our new ELA standards. The review of the Georgia Standards of Excellence for English Language Arts will move into the working committee phase in the coming months. Educators from around the state will meet to review these standards. Their work will be informed by multiple sources, including feedback from over 10,000 respondents to the public review. The implementation of these standards will occur in August of 2024. The first action item for the March Board of Education meeting is for new desktop computers. Oconee County Schools posted a request for proposal for 40 desktop computers on January 14, 2021 and closed on February 16, 2022. The new desktop computers will be direct replacements for student and staff devices. The superintendent's recommendation is for the Board of Education to approve purchasing the new servers from Bytespeed at the March 14, 2022 Board of Education regular session for $33,000. This will be paid for using ESSER funds. The second action item for the March Board of Education meeting is for a new internet filter. Oconee County Schools posted a request for proposal for the new filter on January 14th and closed on February 16th. The new internet filter will replace our existing service, provide CIPA compliance for E-rate funding, filter internet content, allow for enhanced YouTube control, and continue allowing digital classroom management for teachers. The superintendent's recommendation is for the Board of Education to approve purchasing the new internet filter from Lightspeed at the March 14th Board of Education regular session for $50,000. This will be paid for using the general fund. The third action item for the March Board of Education meeting is our strategic waiver school system contract. The State Board of Education recently approved Superintendent Wood's recommendation to extend our contract term for 2 years due to the lack of accountability data available to make a determination on contract performance. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Susan, do you have any preliminary numbers on the kindergarten registrations?
We do have preliminary numbers. We are pretty close. We looked this morning actually at where we were on Friday and compared it to the date that we were on that exact date last year, and they were almost identical, a little bit lower than usual. And then I got another update today, and we were even higher. So we're about where we were last year.
Okay, so not a significant increase.
No.
What we had last year.
No, it fluctuates a little bit based on just the number of kindergartners coming in, but it wasn't anything there wasn't a significant discrepancy.
Is there any reason that you would expect over the next month for others to come along, or is that process pretty much gotta happen now to close, if not for next year?
No, we keep a pretty big gap between that March 1st through 4th week of online registration. We want to try to get as many as we can that week, but we keep a gap between when we do the screenings because we know we'll have people who will trickle in over the next few weeks.
So there could be a few more, but you would expect that to be
Right.
more.
And we'll even have some that come after the screenings, and then if they register, then the principals will just work with those parents, and they'll come in on a one-on-one basis to be screened. So we'll have them continue to come in, we'll get the majority at this screening time, but we'll have them kind of trickle in after that too.
Okay, good. One other question. On the internet filter you were just talking about, the YouTube controls, can you just, and maybe Ryan's got, maybe this is a question for Ryan, can you talk just a second about how that enhances or what that does beyond what our current capacity is to control YouTube access?
So Lightspeed actually has a component inside of YouTube where it has what we call a crawler, and it goes through those YouTube videos and it allows us to block individual videos, which right now we're having to do very, very selectively when we get feedback from teachers or principals when they submit a ticket. And then on top of that, it blocks all the comments, all the ads, all that as well. So it just allows us like very granular control of YouTube, which we get a lot of requests from teachers in the schools.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Next is operations, Mr. Brock Toole.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. The Coney County Schools Operation Division March Board of Education report contains 3 items of information and 1 action item for the March 14th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our energy report, and the January energy report shows an on-trend increase in usage over December. Our second item of information is our lead custodian meeting. The February lead custodian meeting was held Thursday, February the 10th, and was hosted by the team at Dove Creek Elementary School. Our custodial teams are to be commended for the rigorous work ensuring that our schools are clean for health. Our third item of information is our construction update. I'm going to call up Fred Rickson, our Director of Facilities, to go over that.
Good evening. We had great weather last week. Can't speak for this week.
Yeah.
We made a lot of progress at Collin Ferry, as you can see from the photograph. The air conditioning units have been installed. The window frames are installed. The glass should be here next week. Once the glass is in, we can start the air conditioning and start painting, putting in ceilings, flooring. So we're really starting to see that final push for Collin Ferry. So I'm really excited about that. High Shoals. If you hadn't been by in the past 2 days, you haven't seen this. The steel came in. It's been installed. The roof decking's installed, and we're going to start concrete block work next week. Finally, we're starting to see some momentum there, and fortunately, we've taken advantage of the time to get materials here, and so they're going to really be moving forward quite quickly at this point. And Dove Creek Middle, if you haven't been out there, it's a tremendous operation to see. They've moved a lot of dirt. Wet rain is a challenge because it's just, working in the mud is very difficult. But as you can see the gravel there, they're getting, in particular on the right-hand side, there's a bobcat kind of down in a hole. That is the excavation for the very first, most important footing. And hopefully by the end of the week, we'll start, if the weather holds, we'll be in position to start getting ready to pour some concrete and start coming out of the ground. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. We have 1 action item. Our action item is for the Coney County Primary or Coney County Elementary School renovation. And it's the superintendent's recommendation for the Board of Education to approve Kevin Price Construction Company for the renovation of a Coney County Primary School and a Coney County Elementary School for a proposed cost of $2,395,825. The estimated total project cost, which includes furniture, technology, etc., is $2,768,318. This project will be funded by ELOS and the state dollars. That concludes our report, unless there are any questions. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Bob,
Yes.
we've talked in the past about trying to do some re-roofing
Yes, sir.
over those schools as well.
Yes.
Does this bid include the cost of doing that re-roofing, or
No,
does
sir.
that have to come subsequently?
That would be in phase 2,
Okay,
which we would bring forth to you all in September.
okay. So this doesn't include the cost of that. The cost of that, and then obviously the work for that would be in phase 2.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
Very good.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Remind me how many qualified proposals we had.
We had 3.
Okay.
We had, would you like to know who they are?
No, I just want to make that. I thought we had 3.
Yes, sir, we did.
Can you give us an update on the lights in North Oconee and the construction of the baseball field house?
Yes. So 2 separate things there. The lights at North Oconee, as you may know, we've had a few issues with the lights at North Oconee. We've been in constant communication with Qual Light, which is our vendor who put in the lights. The next steps where we're at now is, first of all, just making sure the lights are on all the time. We went out there and checked them again today. We check them every day to make sure they come on. Qual Light has proposed to come out and redo the underground wiring. So what we've done is went through checks and measures to see if we could find anything that was wrong we could put our finger on. And basically what was happening were drivers were being burnt out. We're trying to figure out why that is happening. So the last step of this process is for them to come out and redo the underground wiring and see if that is the actual final step. We'll make sure everything's good with the lights. The baseball hitting facility, was that the same question?
Right.
So the baseball hitting facility, we started work on that back in about August of last year. And basically what we were doing is we were making locker rooms, bathrooms, as well as a coach's office. And what we did, our goal was to complete it in phases. So the first phase was to go out, get the building, get it erect. The second phase was to get the bathrooms completed prior to the baseball season, which we did. And now we're in what we call the third phase, and that's where we go out and get quotes to finish out the framing on the inside, the HVAC, and then the actual installation.
Okay. To clarify, anything that's done in that building has to be qualified,
Yes, sir.
licensed, insured, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely, yes, sir. General contractor.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Was the light work, is that still under warranty on that?
Yes, sir. Well, it's 2 separate companies, Qual Light being the ones who actually manufacture the lights, and they're under warranty for 20 plus years.
Right, but you had the vendor who installed it, the contractor.
It's out of warranty on that, Mr. Wayne.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have Student Services, Dr. Dallas Doug.
The Student Services March Board of Education report contains 3 items of information and no action items for the March 14th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our COVID-19 update. We remain in constant communication with the Georgia Department of Public Health regarding our mitigation plans. As of last Friday, the rolling average in Oconee County is 1.4. That's new cases per day. The vaccine rate is 63% of residents are what they call fully vaccinated. 67% have at least 1 dose, and 30% have a 3rd dose. The 5 to 9 rate is 22.5. The 10 to 14 rate is 38.3, and the 15 to 19 rate is 60. Board members, as I'm sure you are also aware, the CDC recently updated their recommendations for prevention steps in terms of community COVID-19 spread. Dr. Branch and I were able to participate in a national call last week with school superintendents, with Miguel Cardoza, the United States Education Secretary, as well as staff from the White House and the CDC to explain those changes. And the main points of that call were that communities should be able to make their own decisions regarding COVID-19 mitigation based on the levels of spread in their community. The overall national strategy is now focused on preventing severe outcomes rather than each individual case. The CDC is currently encouraging health departments to focus their contact tracing efforts on high-risk settings such as correctional facilities, long-term care facilities, and homeless shelters. And they also stated that they do not recommend universal case investigation and contact tracing in schools. The second item of information is athletics. Let me start by thanking the board for their support for and encouragement for expansion of the opportunities that we provide for students outside of the school day. With that being said, I'd like to inform the board that our high schools have both informed the Georgia High School Association of their intent to participate in 3 new sports to Oconee County next school year, which are bass fishing, girls flag football, and esports. The third item of information is our school nutrition participation update. Happy to report that February we have an increase in 5.4% for breakfast participation and 8.5% for lunch participation when compared to February a year ago. That concludes the student services report unless there's any questions.
Is esports both boys and girls?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the seasons for those sports now?
Esports is throughout the year. There's a
Academic year long?
bass fishing is
All
year long as well.
We fish all the time. Ice fishing, fly fishing, all fishing.
And girls flag football is in the fall.
Fall.
Yes, sir.
Remind me, isn't there a sport that we're losing or that's not going to be there next year?
So currently we're participating in slow pitch.
Yeah.
They did inform us that that was not going to be a sport that GHSA sponsored next year. However, they seem to be going back and forth a little bit that there's some, they're doing some more investigation on whether or not that's something they're going to participate in the future. But the last word we received was that no, they're not going to be participating in that next year.
So neither high school will be participating in that sport next year potentially.
That's correct.
Okay.
We have very minimal financial impact on adding these 3 sports.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The startup cost is relatively low.
You haven't bought fishing lures lately,
I'm looking for that vote.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have communications. Miss Anissa Menez. As you're walking up, congratulations on all the awards you just received.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. The Communications Board Report contains 2 items of information. First up is an update on our newsletter, including our new parent resource feature. First of all, I just want to make sure everyone's aware that all of our newsletters are able to be found on our website at oconeeschools.org/newsletter. And so if you'll scroll down, that's a screenshot of that page. And so they're all there. I will note that our newsletter project is one of the recipients of a gold award from GSPRA. So starting in January, we started including a parent resource feature. In January, we promoted the parent tool shed that Dr. Stansel mentioned. So we started doing a parent resource feature. We also started promoting available employment positions, and we looked at the times of date when people were most likely to read a newsletter. And through that process, we increased our open rate from 51% to 60%. And then in February, the parent resource feature that we highlighted was our new lunch menu website. And so Dr. LaDuff has spoken with all of you about that. That's where parents can go on and see nutrition information on any of our menu items. They can also sort our menus by dietary needs. This newsletter had a 62% open rate. I'd like to give you a preview of what will be in the March newsletter that hasn't gone out yet. But what will be our parent resource of the month? We're going to show parents and any interested community members how they can sync the school calendars on our website with their personal calendars. I've been fortunate to attend 11 school council meetings this year, so I've heard directly from a lot of our parents and business partners and staff members. Something I heard was, it sure would be nice if our school calendars could show up right on my iPhone or in my Google Calendar. Well, they can. And so we'll be rolling this out, and there's a 1-minute instructional video to show individuals how to do this as well. So we keep looking for different ways to provide resources and that information on a monthly basis. And now my second item of information would be our monthly highlights video. And that concludes my report unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a need to go into executive session and need a motion to do so.
Motion that the board adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on the affidavit to be attached to the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Passes 4-0.